going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 90 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Friday, July 11, 2025. I'm your host, Zach Malamud. Before we get started, please subscribe below, follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of baseball, as both New York teams were in action this weekend. We'll start things in the Bronx, where the New York Yankees took on the Seattle Mariners for a 3-game set at Yankee Stadium, and the Yankees win all 3 games of the series. They sweep the Mariners and are on a 4-game win streak right now, dating back to Sunday's win against the New York Mets at Citi Field. But you look at this series, and the Yankees, with their starters a bit in question for this series, probably bottom end of their rotation, they somehow end up getting the series sweep. And it all started on Tuesday with Will Warren on the mound. He gets a 10-3 victory, gets credited with the win, and he was real solid in this game. 5 2/3, 4 hits allowed, not a run, 4 Ks, 2 walks. The strikeouts were not there, but he got soft contact and really made this Mariners lineup work. It took the Yankee lineup a little bit to get going, as Oswald Peraza finally got an RBI infield single to give the Yankees a 1-0 lead in the 5th. Then it was Giancarlo Stanton who really gave the Yankees some breathing room. He hits a 3-run bomb into right center to give the Yankees a 4-0 lead. Wells added on with a homer of himself. Then it was Judge who also added a solo home run. 7-0 Yankees, and a couple more runs batted in by Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Paul Goldschmidt. So the Yankees end up getting to Logan Gilbert, who is really good for the first 5 innings or so of this game. He ends up going 5 1/3, 7 hits allowed, 5 earned runs, 5 Ks, and 2 walks, and he falls to 2-3 on the season. But give credit to Will Warren, who's had a couple of rough starts this season. One of them was his last start against the Toronto Blue Jays up at the Rogers Center. He got trucked in that game really early in the first inning, and he really bounced back strong in this one. No earned runs allowed for Will Warren in this game, and it's a big-time win for the New York Yankees, who get the 10-3 victory on Tuesday night. Then you go into Wednesday's game, and the Yankees in a bit of a questionable starter spot with obviously the injuries now, and we'll get to Clarke Schmidt in just a bit, but they're still dealing with Luis Gil on the IL. Don't know when he's going to return just yet, trying to start his rehab assignment soon. But the Yankees rotation at the top right now is Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, and Will Warren, and that's it. The next 2 guys you're really discussing who's it going to be. They're waiting for Ryan Yarbrough to come back, and obviously he's coming back from injury, so he's going to be in that rotation as well. But they have to rely on a new guy in Cam Schlittler, who comes in for his Major League debut and goes up against this tough Mariners lineup. Ends up getting the win. He's 1-0, his first career Major League win, and the Yankees end up winning it on Wednesday 9-6, and it all started in the first inning. How about giving your new guy and your young starter some breathing room in the first inning, as the Yankees add 3 runs on the board? Bellinger with an RBI single, Stanton added an RBI single, and Jazz Chisholm Jr. added an RBI ground out. Before you can blink, it's 3-0 Yankees, and they continue to add on, with Chisholm having another phenomenal game. Plenty of RBIs. He had 2 home runs in this game, and the Yankees end up winning it 9-6. And the big thing about Schlittler was he really stood out with the velocity that he was able to bring. I mean, this is a tall guy standing at 6'6". That makes it easy for him, and his fastball is dangerous, almost peaking at 100, and he had the 6 fastest pitches by a Yankee pitcher this season in just the first inning. It was phenomenal to see, and his slider can really get up there in speed as well. So that's a guy that you're really looking at saying, all right, well, he pitches like this, that can easily be the Yankees' 5th starter for now with all the injuries to this rotation. He ends up his finishing line, getting the win. He's 1-0 on the year, 5 1/3, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 7 Ks, and 2 walks. So the strikeout stuff is there. The big-time fastball and the velocity is there. This is a guy who could be a regular in the Yankee rotation as long as he pitches well enough. So that's a real positive sign for the Yankees. They end up getting the series win in the end. And then you head into Thursday's game, and you're not expecting too much from this Yankees team, as yes, they're on a roll, but they got Marcus Stroman on the mound. Brian Wu is a tough pitcher on the other side. and the Yankees were down and out in this game. In the 8th inning, Brian Wu, the Mariners were up 5-0, and Wu had a no-hitter into the 8th inning at Yankee Stadium. So you're thinking this game's all but over, and this one is a whirlwind of a game, and the Yankees come all the way back. They win this one 6-5 in 10 innings as the Yankees end up getting their first hit of the game off the bat of Jazz Chisholm Jr. and a wild 8th inning that the Yankees end up getting 3 runs, one of those runs from Chisholm on a sac fly by Austin Wells. Stanton then comes in a pinch hit 2-run home run to make it 5-3. And then you head into the 9th. Yankees got bases loaded, 2 outs. Final pitch of the ball game, a 3-2 count, and Austin Wells does it again. An RBI single, 2-run score, and he gets the Yankees tied in this game to head into the 10th inning. They have bases loaded in the 10th as well, and Aaron Judge, the guy you want, coming up to the plate. He comes up with 1 out and hits a sac fly to center field. Julio Rodriguez made a phenomenal throw in the end to home plate, but Anthony Volpe, how about the slide? He's not going to get enough credit for it in the end because it's going to say Judge's sac fly, but that slide was unbelievable by Volpe. How in the world did he get in? Picks his arm up to get around the tag of Cal Raleigh, one of the best catchers in baseball, and Anthony Volpe gets the winning run. The Yankees, one of their best comebacks in recent history, and they somehow win this game 6-5. That just shows you where this Yankees team stands. They can never be counted out on the offensive end. Yes, they've had their struggles here and there pitching-wise, but give credit to the Yankee bullpen that ended up keeping them in the game. They got an inning out of JT Brubaker. They also got an inning out of Ian Hamilton, and those 2 innings were absolutely huge for this Yankees team. It set up Devin Williams in the 10th inning to get all 3 outs without allowing a run, with the ghost runner starting on second base, and he was fired up on just 7 pitches in the 10th inning. So give credit to this Yankees team. Again, they can never be counted out, and what a win it is. This could be a season-defining win for the New York Yankees. That's how big it was, and what a comeback from this Yankees team in front of the home crowd. So now the Yankees head into another series before the All-Star break. They got plenty of guys prepping for Atlanta starting next week, but they have one more series to go, and it's not going to be an easy one. The Chicago Cubs, who are red hot right now in the National League, come to town for a 3-game set at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Starting tonight, it's going to be a 7:05 start with Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yankees, and the Cubs are going to go with the bullpen game. It's going to be Chris Flexen who starts it for the Chicago Cubs. So the Yankees got to take advantage of this bullpen game from Chicago. I mean, I don't think any game will come close to what they had last night, but if the Yankee offense plays how they did in the last couple innings of yesterday's game, just that small ball type of game with a little bit of pop that they got from Giancarlo Stanton, that's the real difference maker for this Yankees team this season. And they're going up against a very tough Cubs team, like I said, who's feeling really good in the National League right now. So Carlos Rodon on the mound. He's been iffy lately, trying to get a good start here. And one last good start before the All-Star break. His last couple have been a bit of rough ones. He had the loss against the New York Mets his last time out with 6 earned runs, 2 home runs allowed. And the Yankees' 12-6 loss last Saturday, and the one before that, he went to Toronto and gave up 2 earned runs. It didn't have a bad game, but only had 4 strikeouts in that one. That's a little bit low for Rodon's caliber. So he's got to get a big outing here, and he's hoping for one as the Yankees take on the Cubs for a 3-game set at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Some news coming in from the Yankees camp, though, in the last couple of days, and we'll start with one of the guys that's been there for a while, a veteran on this Yankees team who has had some very big moments in a Yankee uniform, and that one is DJ Lemahieu, an infielder who's been there for a lot in the last 5 or 6 years or so and been a big part of it. The Yankees have finally decided to designate DJ for assignment. He is owed still $22 million through next season. But the big thing in the end from Brian Cashman, what he was saying, just a tough decision in the end. And obviously, this is a guy who did not have much versatility when it came to his position on defense. He's already way up there in age, and that's going to be a big deal for the Yankees. As when you look at the 7-year contract that they gave him, And yes, at the time that you would give it to him every single time after the season he had in 2019. But still, you're really dealing with the end effects of DJ LeMahieu's contract. And the Yankees want Jazz Chisholm now at second base. They feel like that's the best spot for Jazz Chisholm. DJ LeMahieu's time is really coming to an end as a Yankee, and they decide that it's best to DFA him. So he's off the roster now. They officially released him. So that's going to be an interesting saga of how the Yankees replace what LeMahieu was able to bring at second base. They go with Jazz Chisholm, but then they have an open spot at third base. So they're dealing with injuries this year at third, and Oswald Peraza has taken some reps at third base. He's been really the go-to guy, it seems, in the first couple of games, but they got some other guys that they can rely on there, and obviously that's a big discussion point for this Yankees team. Do they go down to the minors, grab a guy up? Jorbit Vivas has been one of those guys who stepped up in a couple of games as well, so they can really go back and forth, but that's your 9-hitter. That's really not something that you're really desperately worrying about. Could they end up looking at the market for the trade deadline? Maybe. I think that could be a good move for the Yankees if they're able to get a cheap third baseman on a team that's really struggling right now. I think that's probably the best move for this Yankees team, and they could add another bat to the lineup, give them some length in their lineup as well. So they can deal with what they have right now. I'm not really freaking out about it at third base with Peraza and Vivas. Both guys are good, solid defenders, so you're really not thinking that's a blank spot or a moot point in this Yankees lineup. So I think when you look at it, the Yankees should look for a third baseman, but they also have other needs in the pitching department. Got to get a reliever. Probably got to get a starter as well if they can add to it, and we'll see what happens. So they have some tough decisions to make, and a lot of those tough decisions in the pitching department have to do with another guy going down. It is Clarke Schmidt. I brought it up before. He's down for the season as he's going to get Tommy John for the second time in his career. Got one back in 2017 when he was a draft pick by the New York Yankees. All of a sudden, he's going back for another Tommy John surgery. He's at 29 years old right now, and that's a real heartbreaker for the New York Yankees, who have to deal with another starter going down and a guy who's been reliable for them. I know he hasn't had his best stuff in every game, but he's giving you enough in the absence of a lot of other pitchers. I'm not the biggest Clarke Schmidt fan, but of course you would want a starting pitcher like Clarke Schmidt in your rotation when you're dealing with injuries like the Yankees are. And it's just a disappointing one as he's undergoing surgery on Friday, and the Yankees starting pitcher his season is over, and the Yankees now have to figure out how to replace Schmidt's spot in the rotation. I already talked about Cam Schlittler. He comes in and is looking really good. He could be the next man up. So we'll see what happens. But the Yankees have a lot of things on their plate, and they have to really figure things out right now with Schmidt going down as well and another injury to this Yankees rotation. So let's move things to the other side of New York, and the New York Mets were in action this week. They were down in Baltimore for a 3-game set against the Baltimore Orioles, who have looked better as of late, but still sit at the bottom of the AL East. When you look at this series, though, the Mets, it started on Tuesday, and they end up getting a 7-6 comeback win, a comeback win of their own on Tuesday evening, where the Mets looked down and out and really looked like they were just going to bow out in this game, down 6-2 in the late innings of this one, and all of a sudden, a wild 8th inning, and the Mets score 4 runs on 2 different 2-run blasts, one by Francisco Lindor, the next by Pete Alonso, both to straightaway center, and they end up tying the game in the top of the 8th. It's 6-6, and the Mets go into extra innings as they get through the last couple. They brought in Edwin Diaz, who had a real solid inning. Reed Garrett looked really strong, and that's been something you haven't been saying much lately. But then they go into the 10th inning, and Juan Soto ends up coming up clutch in this one, and he ends up getting the RBI single that brings home Francisco Lindor. Mets take a 7-6 lead. And how about Huascar Brazoban getting his second career save and his second save of the season? He goes an inning strong, no hits allowed, no runs, with a strikeout and no walks. Really kept a clean inning there and got the Orioles hitters to ground out in a tough part of this Orioles lineup. So the Mets end up getting a 7-6 win, and you're heading into Wednesday's game feeling real confident after the Mets obviously had a good series against the Yankees, but they also had a series before that against the Brewers where they looked really, really good. And then you go into Wednesday's game that gets postponed, and that really hurt the Mets in the end as they have a doubleheader, a split doubleheader on Thursday afternoon, 12 o'clock game, 5 o'clock game, and the Mets get swept in both of them. The Orioles take down the Mets 3-1 in the first game of the doubleheader. That one came down to David Peterson looked really, really good in this game for 7 innings, goes into the 8th inning and lets up a base hit, and right there and then at 90 pitches, he's hooked by Carlos Mendoza. They take him out. One of the most questionable decisions of the season, no doubt about it, by Mendoza, as he had a starting pitcher that looked really, really good so far in that game. Only 4 hits allowed and 6 strikeouts. Didn't even walk a guy. But then he takes him out of the game. Ryan Stanek comes in, bring in a righty. The Orioles with plenty of lefties on the bench with Ryan O'Hearn and Gunnar Henderson, who did not start the game, either one of them. Henderson comes up to bat, and Stanek gives him a pitch to hit. Henderson did not miss it. A 2-run bomb into right center field, and he ends up getting the win for the Baltimore Orioles. That gave them a 2-1 lead. They go on to win 3-1 as Laureano added a sac fly in that same inning. Ryan Stanek had 4 walks in this outing. He's not looked good recently. He moves to 2-5 on the season, and he only goes 2 1/3 in this game. And that really was the difference there. A bad decision by Mendoza in the end. He took accountability for it. He said, yeah, I thought that David, it was just time. I thought, in my opinion, it was time and that we needed to rely on others in the bullpen to come in and take the game. Not a great look by the Mets manager, as that one really, really hurt the Mets in the end. But you never know. And of course, you talk about the last time Peterson was out there, they said that they had him in there too long. So they really were worrying about that. They didn't want him in there too long. Mendoza pulls the hook a little bit early, in my opinion, and they end up paying for it as the Mets lose the first game of the doubleheader 3-1. You head into the bullpen game in game 2, and this one was one that you look at and say, well, the Mets really needed to grab game 1 because you have these bullpen arms coming in for game 2. And it was more of the same for the New York Mets. In bullpen games, they really continue to struggle, and these bullpen arms are just not good enough. Their bulk relievers that they're relying on just don't do the job for them. And really, that was the story in the end, as the Mets ended up taking a 2-0 lead. They end up getting a RBI ground out by Soto. They also get a sac fly by Alonso. 2-0 in the blink of an eye. But then in the second inning, the Orioles lineup was able to get to Brandon Waddell. His finishing line is 3 innings with 4 hits allowed, 3 earned runs, a walk, and 2 Ks. Mets tied it at 3 with Brett Beatty hitting an RBI single. But then in the 5th inning, Justin Hageman, who gets credited with the loss in this one, allowed 2 earned runs to Colton Cowser, who hit an RBI single, and then Ramon Laureano ends up scoring on an error by Brett Beatty. That one with 2 outs, and a real killer that one was, as the Mets end up losing 7-3 after trailing 5-3 at the end of 5. So a bad look in the end on Carlos Mendoza for that decision to take out Peterson in the first game. Mets bats were invisible in the second game. After that first inning, just nowhere to be found. They only have 5 hits in the game, and you're not going to win many games like that, even with 3 runs up on the board. And Baltimore took it to them. The Orioles have looked better as of late, but not that great. And the Mets should win this series against Baltimore, but they end up losing 2 out of 3, and they have not been good in doubleheaders this season. So that's another thing that the Mets have to worry about. Sagano gets the win, and the Mets lose this one 2 out of 3 to the Baltimore Orioles. Now you head into the final series before the All-Star break for the New York Mets. And that one comes in Kansas City, where it looks like rain is in the forecast. So maybe doubleheader could be another day of that for the New York Mets. So we'll see what happens. But they get their ace back. And that one is Kodai Senga. No, it's not Sean Manaea, who could be coming back pretty soon, probably in the next couple days. But this year, Kodai Senga has been their ace, 7-3 on the year, a .47 ERA. He has been so solid for the New York Mets this season until he went down with that hamstring injury that knocked him out for just about a month. And that really hurt the New York Mets as they went on a long spell where they just were not able to win games. And I think a lot of that had to do with the starting pitching. That's not all because of the injury to Kodai Senga, but it seemed like a trickling effect since that Senga injury happened. So they get him back tonight. An 8-10 start in Kansas City. He'll be up against Michael Wacha, who's 4-9 on the season, a .383 ERA, and he's looked really bad as of late. Not been a good month of June and into July for Michael Wacha, so the Mets bats really need to wake up in this one and take this one against the Kansas City Royals, who another team that really have righted the ship after a rough start to the season. All of a sudden, they're just a couple games back in the wild card, and because of that, they look like they're in a good spot right now at 46-48. They look to continue to win games. Tough stadium to play at, but one Juan Soto remembers this from the ALDS last year with the New York Yankees. This is a ballpark that he can really hit the ball in, and obviously he's looking forward to this matchup against the Kansas City Royals. So a 3-game set for the New York Mets. Like I said, Manaea could come back maybe on Sunday for that finale against the Royals, or else you also have on Saturday Frankie Montas, who gets another start against Michael Lorenzen, it looks like, for the Royals. So we'll see what happens. Enjoy this 3-game set between the Mets and the Royals in Kansas City. But that will do it for episode 90 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malamud. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Monday.